Well, I was not expecting that intro. That caught me totally off guard. Yes. Well, hello, everyone. We have a number of people already here for our webinar on Learn to Optimize Your WordPress Site for Mobile in 60 minutes. For everyone who's already said hello, let us know where you are. I'm down here in the south, and Rodney's up there in the north. And we're very happy to see everyone here today. Rodney, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm very excited to be doing another one of these webinars. We have so much fun. I'm always reminded of things I learned a long time ago when I'm preparing for these. So it's always educational for me too.
Great. I see we have an trainer from Michigan, so also early morning over there. And we have some people over from the eastern side of France. There we go. So nighttime, I guess it's around 5 or 6 in the evening. It's 6 o'clock here for me. I wish I could do this in the mornings as well. So great. So let's kick it off and do a few quick introductions so you guys know who we are and who we are presenting in this webinar. And then after that, we'll kick off our presentation for this day.
Well, hello. I'm Rodney Brazil. I'm an SEO and content specialist here at EasyWP and Spaceship. I write lots of blogs, do lots of training, lots of it about SEO, but content in general. I love WordPress, and I'm very excited to talk about mobile WordPress today.
Great, thank you, Rodney. And I am JP, long name there, Jean-Pierre Pellissier. I'm from South Africa for a company called Brizzy. And we create page builders, one of the best and most intuitive page builders on the market to work with WordPress, which is Brizzy. And I'm going to show you tonight in this partnership with EasyWP on how working together, you can truly create a website that is responsive and is going to get you all the results you need when you go to search engine optimization. This is not we're not having a huge crowd here today. So I can see at the moment there are 82 people in the room. Usually it's much more than that. But what I do like about these smaller crowds is that you have opportunity to ask us the questions and we can give you that attention. But let's talk about that. And I will just quickly talk here about what we are going to cover during this presentation for today. Well, first of all, I want to tell you that, of course, this is recorded. This is the number one question I always point out that people ask us, will I be able to see it later? For those of you who need to go to bed or need to go to work or log off for whatever reason, yes, it will be recorded. And there will be email after the webinar with the recording link, as well as everything else, all the other goodies that we will be announcing during this webinar. Those links will be there in as well. Unfortunately, StreamYard is the platform we are using, doesn't have this technical possibility to enable live caption in other languages or even in English at the moment. Not yet. I'm pretty sure this is one of those features we will see in the future. But not to worry. This will be uploaded to Spaceship's YouTube channel, and you'll be able to watch it there with caption for the videos. So in general, we are going to cover a lot in this small 1 hour. We're going to look at must-know tips on how you can choose mobile responsive WordPress themes, which are very important. How you can make the most out of these optimization plugins that currently exist. And Rodney's going to cover most of this. A few tips and tricks we're going to throw in along the way on how to optimize images. And we'll talk about WebP so you can have faster mobile experience, something Google is all about. And then we'll talk about how to streamline your menus and layouts for smoother navigation and give you advice on how to test and preview mobile-friendly design. And then, of course, do you have a question? Please just jot it down there in the comment section. And our support team in the background, which is Kate and Ika, they will be looking at this and they will be pushing it through to me and Rodney, so that we can have a look at your questions near the end. So remember, it is recorded, and also remember that you can ask your questions. And that means that if you do participate, we'll give you something in return. For some of you, there is 100 gift card for one random winner, which all will be chosen during this webinar. And then one random winner will also get a $50 account at Spaceship. And then we have secret surprises to be revealed for 5 random winners, and then exclusive discount on EasyWP plans. So Rodney, maybe you can tell us about the EasyWP plans that we can look forward to.
Right, absolutely. So we've got the promo we're offering is 65% off any EasyWP yearly plan that you register on spaceship.com. There's a coupon code EASY25. It's going to be available for a couple of weeks, but it's only available to people who watch this webinar. And we have several plans to choose from. You know, we have our starter plan that's for people with a small website just getting started. We have our turbo plan, which is really great. It's typically the one that I steer people toward. It's our favorite plan because it has a few more bells and whistles. It has a little bit more disk space to help you scale. And then, of course, we have our supersonic plans for those people who are just ready to go all the way with their website and with their content. So take a look at those plans, compare them on spaceship.com, and don't forget to enter that coupon code when you purchase.
Great. So again, we will announce the winners after the Q&A section. And that brings us then to the next part of our presentation or our webinar. And that means let's start with the demo. And I'm going to hand over to Rodney. He's going to take full control over what's going on for the next while.
Absolutely. So as I was just kind of mentioning, I'm going to walk you through the process of really getting started with purchasing EasyWP on Spaceship. Let's take a look here. I'm going to get my screen going. So the first thing, you know, when you're registering for a website, you're going to need a domain name. So it's very important just to go right there on the homepage. You can search for the domain that you have your heart set on. You just add that to the cart. You can see that right there in the cart. And what's really easy about our process is once you get to the cart, you can just add on your EasyWP hosting right there without having to do anything different. It defaults you to some of the best pricing. You just make the purchase and that is it. So that was super easy, just getting the website started. And one of the things that we're really, really proud of at Spaceship, we spent a couple of years at least putting this technology together, is our unboxing process. And that's something that we noticed, you know, people that are starting their website for the first time, or even people that have started 1,000 websites, they really need that process of getting the website started, going from that registration of the domain all the way to getting started on that website, getting started on your business. We wanted to make that as quick and as simple as possible. And so once you have your hosting purchased, it's very easy just to jump right in, connect that domain that you purchased. Now we offer CDN options automatically. You can apply for your content delivery network or connect the content delivery network. Connect an email. We have really great, our Space Mail program is great. Lots of new businesses want that custom email look. You get your domain all secured with your SSL options. And then once you've got it connected, it just takes a few seconds and we connect all the products together and you're ready to configure your website. It's just as easy as that. And we have lots of options to guide you through as you're going through that process. So when you're doing it for the first time, maybe you're new to Spaceship, maybe you have a Spaceship website already and just want to revisit that process, feel free to look at any of our resources, watch our guides on our website, and we're always happy to help you get started there.
Rodney, I just think, you know, the first time I worked with Spaceship, it's revolutionary in a way that you are trying to give this one-stop solution for people and that they don't have to go to a domain to look for a URL and then they have to go and figure out how to do SSL certificate and bring in their own DNS and all that kind of stuff. So I would say, especially for beginner level, this is a great solution. But as you mentioned, even for agencies who are working with hundreds to thousands of websites, this takes up hours of additional work. Really great unboxing technology going on here.
Yeah, I agree. And I really love, as you said, as somebody who creates websites all the time, whether that's just testing WordPress products or testing a new theme, starting a new website. Sometimes I can do that multiple times a day. And this unboxing process makes it quicker than I've ever seen before. I'm going to also now go to just show you a little bit once you've got your website started. Let me get my screen shared here again. And we're going to go here. So this is our launch pad on Spaceship. And this has links to manage every single product that you might have, user information, security information that's linked with spaceship.com. And I'm going to go right down here under this hosting, all the set of hosting, because we have EasyWP. We have an EasyWP website that we've registered. And once we go in here, we have the ability to manage our website. And if you have more than one, you'll see those all on the list here. So it just for anybody that manages multiple sites, it's really easy to find that list anytime you need right here. So I'm going to go to this manage button that's right there front and center. And I'm popped up with all of these options over here on the side. We can look at our billing cycle. We can take a look at our backups. We can take a look at all these different areas. But one of my favorite places to go next after here is called WordPress options. And that takes you into this dashboard that lets you know if your automatic updates are available. It lets you know when the last backup was taken. And this is a brand new site. JP and I just built this site yesterday and this morning, the one that we're demoing with today. So we haven't done any backups yet. But once you do those backups, you can access them here on that list. And this is another tab that I believe everybody should really look at if you've got an EasyWP website with us. And that's the security tab, because security is important for any type of online activity. And we have some really great tools that are exclusive to EasyWP. One of those being Malware Guardian. That I've got the protection already enabled right here. It scans my website to see if any malware, any type of malicious activity has taken place. And then if it had, I would see it in a report here. Fortunately, we have nothing to report. And in this case, nothing is a good thing. And then we also have our Hack Guardian feature, which allows you to enable a partial read-only mode to prevent any outside party from trying to make any edits to your website. We're going to be making some edits to the website today, so I've got this deactivated for now. But once we have the website up and it's where we want to be, then we'll activate this for that added security. JP, did you have anything to add before I move on? I'm kind of ready to dive into the mobile component, but wanted to check in with you.
I like what we've seen, and yes, I think we can move forward to the mobile stuff. I'm dealing with dogs here that are barking like crazy. Neighbors decided to take their dogs for a walk. It's evening time here. Just a quick hello to everyone who has joined since then. Welcome to our webinar on responsiveness for mobile design and how to optimize your website for mobile responsiveness. And just to remind you that this is recorded. If you need to sign off at one point, or if you joined late, you will get an email afterwards with this recording link, as well as the links for all the other discounts that have been mentioned earlier. But let's get into the mobile part of things, Rodney.
Excellent. All right, diving right in. So one of the important things, and we mentioned this on the slide that we had up front, one of the most important things to think about is your WordPress theme. That's going to set the stage for your entire website for the entire time that you use it. Now, as we go into this, we're talking about the important things to look for in a responsive, mobile-ready theme. But I do want to mention that if you're using a modern theme and using something that's been developed in recent years and has been recently updated, for the most part, all of the themes that fall into that description in the WordPress library are going to be mobile friendly to some degree and are going to be responsive to some degree. Developers have known for many years now that access on mobile sites is very, very important to anybody that puts a website online. And so they know if they want people to use the theme, that it's important to have those mobile capabilities. So as we go in, I'm going to show you some things to look for when you're testing. But just keep in mind that, that most themes will be mobile compatible to some degree. So I'm over here in my WordPress dashboard, and I'm just going to go to Appearance. And right now, my basic theme that I have installed is the 2025. That's the newest free theme that's available from the WordPress core developers. And I'll show you kind of a little bit of a preview here. As you can see, it's a very basic theme. It goes in, you can pull it up. Looks very much like a blog or a WordPress site, and this is mobile responsive. And let me show you what I mean by that if you're very, very new to this terminology. So right now we're previewing this in more of a desktop widescreen sort of look, but here we have options for medium, which in the terms here, this would be more like an experience that somebody might have on a tablet. So you can see in the preview here how that would appear on a tablet. And then we have narrow. And so narrow would just be a narrow screen, much like a cell phone or a smartphone screen. And you can see how this theme responds. And it sort of makes everything a little bit different, a little bit of a different size. It organizes the margins in a different way. But I do want to point something else out right away. So as we're looking at this preview, as you can see here in the 2025 in their preview, you can see that when I go to that narrow experience, I have to scroll to the right using this scroll right here to see everything that's on the page. And that's something that we actually want to avoid. And so the reason I point this out now is that even this mobile responsive theme that's directly from the developers, even that has some limitations in terms of its responsiveness. So that's why it's important, some of these other things that we're going to go into. That's why it's important to go through this checklist, because having a mobile responsive theme just on its own, that's not going to be enough to just set it and forget it, as we sometimes say. I want to show another option here. So I'm back here in Appearance, and I've gone to the theme library. And so there's all of these different options here of super popular themes that you can add. These that you see here high up are some of the most installed themes in the entire WordPress library. And so you can take a look at these. But one thing that I like to do when I'm looking for a new theme, and I want to just go with something that's from the WordPress library, as I toggle over to this tab for block themes, because block themes were built with the new, it's not that new anymore, but the more recent Gutenberg block style editor in mind. And so these blocks are designed to work and move in a responsive way for all screen sizes. And so anything under this block themes tab is going to be a great place to start if you're getting a website for the first time, or if you've got a website that you've had for a long time and you've seen evidence that it's not quite as responsive as you want it to be. Looking at one of these block themes as an option to migrate to can be a great option. Now, in addition to these that come in the WordPress library, Breezy has created quite a few themes. All of them are fully mobile responsive, and there's lots of features that are available with Breezy automatically that aren't available in some of these free themes that I've shown you here in the library. And I think if JP is around, I think he may want to show you some of those themes that are in Breezy. Do you have time to show us that?
Yeah, sure. Okay, let me quickly go to present. So as you know, we can talk about the history of WordPress because it's constantly changing all the time. But let me just make sure I share the same thing. I'll just go for entire screen because I usually mess this up. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, I can.
Right. So I'll just hop on back to WordPress. Page builders came out many, many years ago. And then at the beginning, it was only page builders. And I think we had Beaver Builder, Elementor. They were some of the first to make theme builders, which kind of overrides the WordPress themes that are there. And you can build out your own themes. And that's very important within Breezy, that we also brought in our site builder, our theme builder, which allows you to bring in fully responsive mobile-ready websites. And just to give you an idea of what there is, I've already installed this, and I'll go to Breezy here. and we have the section called Starter Templates. And it's a template, but it's a fully customizable theme ready for so many different areas and expertise and industries that you can work with. You can see if there's a free version we have for Brizy, and we have a number of free ones that you can test out. And then we have the pro version here. Now, I'll just go back to all, because the one that Rodney and I currently using comes down over here. It's one of our business ones. Let me just see if I can find it. This one over here called Workshop. And I can select the live preview, and that takes me into the live preview. And then you have it shown here. And with a one-click installation here with install, you can bring in this. And then that it happens within under a minute. You install this, and you can go and view it on the front end. Now, what I usually do to go and make sure that it's mobile responsive, I go into the inspector, and I'll just go here and I'll right click. And this is whether you are in Google or whether you are on Edge or Safari, doesn't matter. And I can go to something like iPhone 12 Pro, and you can see immediately how the layout changes, and it is fully responsive, and it works perfectly for that. I'll close here, and I just want to show you a little bit in the builder how this is done, because we're very proud of that as well. Every page builder, even Gutenberg, they have their own way of doing it, but we really like the Brizy way. As this page was created with Brizy, I'll go to Edit Page with Brizy, and this takes us right into the Brizy builder. And then I'll go down to a section here at the bottom. Let's get a very complicated section. So what we have here, you can have a look. We have two main columns. Then we have columns within columns. We have images. Setting this up on desktop is kind of standard. It's very easy. And I see this mistake. If I talk about mobile responsiveness, Rod, in my opinion, I think the biggest mistake that many people make is they still focus on the desktop version, and they think of mobile as an afterthought. But, you know, in my family, when I look around me, I'm probably me and my dad, we're the only ones who still insist on using a desktop. Everyone else is on their mobile. My wife, everything else is on a mobile. And the irony is that mobile is, in a way, such a simpler design. You have to completely step back from all the bling and all the thrills and spills you want to put on your desktop. You have to take out the animation, because if you put on too much animation and somebody scrolls, they may miss a pop-up. They may miss the animation. So what we have and what we've done in Brizy is that we have this responsive views that you can go into, and we've simplified it. And this is still being upgraded. New features are constantly being added. But we have your tablet and mobile. So when you go to tablet, you will see that we've already created it. But now we have stacked view. But what is nice about this, and I'll just go back to desktop view, is that if I click on any of these elements, like this text element, you can see we have quite a number of options here. We have AI text generator, we have our typography settings, and a lot of other stuff. As I go into tablet, and I'll select it again, you see we have a significantly reduced menu with fewer features. And this is what we're very happy about, is that as you go into these different responsive views, we take away the clutter, the stuff you cannot change, and the stuff that you need to work on within this design. Again, if I go into mobile, you can see now we have a stacked view, and it's laid out perfectly for mobile. And just like the columns over here, I can actually go ahead and grab columns and easily drag them and resize them, bring them in closely next to each other. Look at that, how quickly I just drag these two, and I can create more kind of galleries, and I'll just undo that with this kind of mobile responsive design. And any change I make at this level on my mobile will not affect my tablet, and it will also not affect my desktop view. And this is very important. I used to be, because I got into website design long ago, mainly from a design perspective. And I made amazing things. You know, it looked really sparkles and bizarre like when I created websites. And then as mobile started coming in, I think we're talking about 6 or 7 years ago, when Google said they're going to start prioritizing mobile and they're going to penalize you if your mobile doesn't look good. I really started focusing on this, and I'm a big supporter of mobile first. And since then, I've scaled down dramatically on how I view my desktop. I try to keep it as simple as possible as well. Because today, for entertainment, people go to Instagram, they go to other platforms, not so much anymore for business websites. For business websites, they go for information. And that's why my advice usually is, specifically working towards a mobile responsive template, is that keep it simple, keep it straight, give the information, avoid page junk. We often refer to page junk. It's little things you put all over the page. Avoid unnecessary animation. You have that idea that animation will draw the person and focus their interest. Not sure about that. We can talk about that for a long time. So yeah, this is what we have at Brizzy, just to remind you of that, hundreds of templates ready there within our theme builder, and you can also build it from scratch. So how we do that is we do that sorry, I'm taking up a little more time. We have a great feature called global blocks. And how global blocks work is that you can design a theme with a header, with your menu, everything like this. And I assign conditions directly where I want it to display. So I can design different headers here on my page. I don't need to exit back to WordPress. And I can decide that I want to show it only on my pages. And then I can select which pages I want to display it on. And then also add exclude if I want to not show it on certain pages. Really give you all that full control. Back to you, Rodney.
Yes, thank you so much. I love that demonstration that you gave, and one of the things that I really liked about it is it really showed how Breezy helps with some of those must-haves when we're talking about like mobile accessibility. You have the touch-friendly navigation, smooth scrolling up and down, an easy way to compare, and really make that mobile design a priority as you're designing the entire page. So I really loved everything that you said there. Um, One of the things I'm going to move on to now, we're going to talk about mobile plugins for WordPress. And the first, I'm going to talk about three specifically. And the first two that I'm going to talk about really apply, I would say, this is my opinion, but really apply mostly to people who have had WordPress websites that have been built for 5 or more years. Websites that still have pages that are up, because if you have a newer site and you've picked a modern theme, if you've picked a Breezy theme and you've got EasyWP hosting, you're really set up for success already. But if you've got some content on your site that's been around for a few years, the first two of these three plugins are going to be something that you really want to look at. So let me get my screen going here again. Google released a technology a while back. I think it was almost 10 years ago, called AMP, and it stands for Accelerated Mobile Pages. And it was a way to take the technology, the HTML technology that was there at the time, and figure out a way to make it faster. And the technology is still around, but it's somewhat being replaced by the Core Web Vitals reports, which is some newer technology, a newer way of assessing pages that Google has come up with. But the reason I wanted to still talk about the AMP plugin today, like I said, if you've got a website that's been around for a really long time, or even not that long of a time, even if it's only been around a few years, and you've noticed through your analytics that maybe some of your mobile users are leaving right away, your bounce rate is really high on mobile, or if you find that there are resources on your website that people really go to, maybe on desktop or tablet, but when you get all the way down to a phone screen size, maybe people, you see that people aren't clicking on those resources. This AMP plugin is something that I would really recommend you install to kind of get some information and to make that experience better for people that are on the smaller screen devices. And I've gone into the settings here for the AMP plugin. I've already got it installed. You can choose the type of website. So this is very commonly used for blogs and news websites because of the way that it creates the feed, and it creates a simplified version. And I guess the best way I could describe is it kind of strips away some resources that are heavy to load, and only loads into that AMP version of the page the absolute essential elements for that user to access and engage with the content that you have. So you can pick the kind of website that you have. We do have a blog here, and you have some adjustments over the pages. Um, you can set up the way that it's presented. You can configure your analytics tracking. And that's another reason that I wanted to stop briefly on this plugin, because the analytics that are available about how your users are engaging with your site are really going to help you with your long-term plans and your long-term strategy when it comes to mobile usage on your website. Because you can make all of these changes, you can incorporate all of these things that you're seeing today, but until you see how real users engage with your website, you're not going to know really where your weak spots are, all of them at least, and where your strong points are. And so the analytics that are available here will really help inform those decisions moving forward. The second plugin that I wanted to talk about is WP Touch. And I'm going to actually just switch to their example page. Now, WP Touch is very interesting because it essentially, I would say, creates a separate website based on the desktop experience website that you've already created. And so what WP Touch plugin will do for you is, if you have a website with a very specific desktop experience, something that's working for you, and again, if it's something, maybe you had your website was built several years ago, or you developed your own site several years ago, WP Touch just creates a separate template just for mobile users, and enables some technology that for an older theme, for example, may not have been built into that theme or the version of that theme that you're using. And so WP Touch is something, once again, to consider if you've got a website that maybe you've migrated a few times, if you've got, even if there are just certain pages or certain parts of your website that have been around for a really long time, WP Touch is one that you should consider. But now I want to move on to a plugin that I recommend for absolutely everybody that is concerned with keeping up with how your website performs on mobile, and that's Google Sitekit. Because as a part of it, I'm an SEO specialist. I think about how my pages and how my content appear on Google all day, every day. But I also want to see the data behind that. I want to see how things are performing. And so every single WordPress website, uh, every time I'm talking to somebody about the best plugins that they should install when they're setting up with WordPress for the first time, I always recommend Google Sitekit. And it integrates perfectly. You can actually use the built-in wizard to set up Google Analytics, set up a connection to Google Search Console without even having ever done it before. The wizard is really, really easy to use. And then as you go through here, you can come to this dashboard right inside. This is my WordPress website. This is where I go in to make all the changes on this website. And I can click right here on Sitekit, and it's going to pull in some analytics without me ever having to think about logging in to Google Analytics on its own, unless I'm looking for deeper answers. And so what does this have to do with mobile? Well, as I was saying, you need to know how people are engaging with your website over time. And that information is primarily the primary free source for that information anyway is Google Analytics. And so since this is a brand new website, it's still gathering data, but you can see impressions, comparisons are all going to be available right here. And I'm going to scroll down to this area right here. So this is the actual speed area of the website. And when we're talking about mobile, your site's ability to load quickly on a mobile device is one of the most important things you can think about. Other than just user accessibility, I would say the second most important thing to think about is going to be the speed that it loads on that phone. Because if I'm on a mobile device, if I'm on, let's just say, like I'm not on Wi-Fi. I've got my device and I'm in, I could be anywhere. I could be in the park. I could be in the subway station, and the internet is maybe not as strong as it could be, but I'm still going to be online on my device. When I go to a website, I want that page to load very, very quickly. Excuse me. And so this report right here will tell you whether or not that is happening. And so right now, I've toggled to the desktop experience. As you can see, I've got a good contentful paint. That's how long it takes the website to really create its first usable version. Total blocking time. Excuse me, just a moment. But then I'm going to toggle to the mobile experience here. Oh, no, I was on mobile. Excuse me. So it's available for desktop and for mobile. As you can see, everything is performing well in the largest contentful paint, total blocking time, cumulative layout shift. That's a very complicated thing to look at. It would be hard for me to even explain to you exactly what that is. However, another great thing about this plugin is you can click on how to improve, and it will give you high level information about how to improve those things. Now, if these things are above your head, you can look for resources online about how to go in. If it's an ongoing problem, you can consider maybe changing that theme, maybe finding a theme that's more responsive. You can look deeper into the reports and see if it's a particular plugin that's causing some of those slowdowns. But once again, it's the data that comes with this report that's really the most important thing about having this plugin on your website. And
Rodney, I have a question.
yeah, absolutely.
I've been asked this question now a few times when it comes to that, like you were on the mobile, it's say 2.1 seconds. What is it analyzing? It's landing the home page, the landing page to determine the speed, or is it the average of all the pages?
In this particular case, it's the average of all the pages. So if you go directly to one of the online tools that measures these things, you can put things in one page at a time. This particular page speed insight is looking at all of the pages and kind of giving you the averages.
Great.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for that. I was searching for what my segue was going to be into my next section, which is
Mm.
talking about images. So as we've talked about in this call, I'm just going to take this out for just a moment. As we've talked about in this call, if you have a good theme from Breezy, if you have a good modern theme from the store, a lot of that responsiveness is built into the theme and the way that it works. But something that you also have to think about are the resources that you upload to your website, the images, the videos, the graphics, the animations, the audio, anything that you're embedding into your website. It needs to be ready for mobile as well. It needs to have dimensions that are suitable for all size screens. It needs to be of a file size that's suitable for quick load times. And so it's an ongoing process to think about this mobile. This mobile optimization. So you make a lot of these decisions up front, you get yourself set up for success, and then you continue to think about all of these things. And so one of the things that I wanted to talk about, and I'm going to bring my screen back in here, because I built a little page on our website, and this is talking about the 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 optimal dimensions and file sizes for the pictures that you for the pictures, the image files that you use. I'm just going to view this on the back end. And the reason I put this on a web page is to kind of give you a visual of what I'm talking about rather than just putting a bunch of numbers on the screen. So as you're choosing the photographs and the videos and the illustrations that you upload to your website to make it look the way that you want it to, there's different sizes. So these full width hero images, some websites have this big splash of photography, sometimes a video that meets you there at the top of the page. I'm sure we've all seen this on websites. And when we're talking about maybe a beautiful graphic that we've purchased from um, like an online, what do I try to say, like a stock image store, or if it's a photograph that you've taken, even with your mobile phone that has lots of megapixels in that camera, this is going to be a huge image, and huge image size wise also is going to be huge file size wise. So I've put some guidelines here. So for these full width hero images, the widest that you really ever need those to be is going to be 1920 pixels. And then if once we're trying to get down to that optimum size, um, 1080 pixels tall is a really great dimension, because if you make something that's really long and really skinny, once it gets on that narrow mobile device, it's going to be very small and users aren't going to be able to really see that. So keeping images in a rectangle or a square like this is really, really useful and a useful thing to keep in mind as you go. And then I've also put on here that you want to keep the file size under 300 kilobits. That's again goes back to that page load speed that we've talked about before. If you have a photograph or an image that's 1 megabyte, 2 megabytes, 3 megabytes, and somebody's on not the fastest internet connection, it's going to take a really long time to slow. And we may have seen in the past when you're loading an image and it kind of like slowly creeps up the page. That's what we want to avoid in the experience, both for our users, but also for Google as it's looking at the pages. And that very specifically will slow down that score that we talked about on the contentful paint. So that's for your full width hero images. And then next we kind of think about our everyday images, like what we would put in a blog post, something that we would just put on a page. And those, since they're never going to have to take up the full width of a desktop screen, we can make those a little bit smaller. And so I've kind of put an optimum size on here, either around 1200 pixels square if you're doing a square image, or 1200 by 800 pixels is really great for a rectangular image. Those same dimensions also apply if you're doing a vertical rectangle image, 800 wide, 1200 tall is a really great rule of thumb. Keeping again 200 kilobytes, excuse me, as the file size, because we want that photograph, that image, that illustration that you've created that really sets the tone for that page. This includes product images as well. You want that to pop right up on the page and be immediately visible the first time somebody loads your page. And then when we're talking about thumbnails and accent images, we want to get even smaller with those because, again, they'll never have to stretch. So we want to maximize or minimize, the amount of information that's required for that web browser to load, and slow down that time. So keeping these thumbnail and accent images around 600, 400 pixels. I really think with Square, 500, 600 pixels square is a really good place to go. Once you start getting down to 400 wide, that can be pretty small on a desktop screen. But 400 tall is a decent file size. Let me look at my list here and see where we are.
And
Oh,
Rodney,
yeah.
there was a trend, I would say a few years ago, where the recommendation was we should go for 4K and we should make the image double or quadruple the size. I tried that. It was just way too huge. And I think we all have kind
Right.
of stepped back from that and back to the 1920 at 1080 at this moment, right? But
Yeah.
if you do search online for image dimensions and resolution, you'll still find many articles that says you should go for retina monitors, you should do 4K. And I think we would say rather not. Stick to the 1920. It's your safest bet. It's going to stretch on those screens, but people usually sit farther back so it looks okay.
No, I agree with that. And I did a consultation with somebody that's a filmmaker a few months ago, and with his website, and he kind of brought that up. He wanted some of those stills from a 4K movie or a high definition movie to really create a big splash. He wanted to see the blood vessels in their eyes kind of on there. And I gave him the very same advice that you gave. Um, you if some yes, that's going to look great to you on your desktop computer, but somebody that's looking for information about you or your films on a mobile device, they're never going to see the information because those images are going to take so long to load on that phone, and you're not even going to be able to see those details anyway. So that is great advice. And I want to show you now because this is a simple process, but oddly enough, is a question that I get a lot. Is how do you achieve this pixel size? How do you make your images and your photographs? How do you put them into these sizes that you're talking about, or optimize them for a size? Because really, I use a Windows PC, and with the native applications that come with a PC, it's strangely really really hard to do that. It seems like something that would be such a given, but really with Windows, it's not. And I'm going to show you a tool that some of you may already be familiar with, which is called Canva. There's a free version and there's pro versions as well. But it's a really great tool for content creators because a lot of times in these demos, we show uploading the final resources to the website and getting those online. But there is a design and development step for all of those resources, whether it be an image or a video or a sale banner or things like that before. And Canva is a really great tool for that. But I wanted to quickly show you, I've got an image here. I've got it, it's a vertical image. And I did that with the mobile phones in mind because mobile devices, many of them have that more portrait um, style screen shape. But once I've got that here, it's really, really easy just to go right up here and click resize. And Canva builds in a lot of suggestions about pixel size, and you'll see that a lot of what this tool recommends really falls in line with some of those guidelines that I gave you in the previous segment as far as pixel size. Instagram post, 1080 wide pixels and 1350 tall. So it really kind of corroborates what we've already gone over. But you can also do something very, very custom here and go with any pixel dimension because every website's different, every design is different. And so I'm going to make this square because I really like square images a whole lot. They're very trendy right now, but they also look great on any size screen. If it's little and narrow, big and wide, that square image for the most part is going to be very, very versatile.
And I think the one thing about square images is also if you decide to make it a circle border on your website, then you don't have to worry about the aspect ratio because it's already 1-to-1. You can easily turn it into a circle.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm gonna go back here. Let's see. I'm actually, well, you know what? I didn't start my free trial. So for now, I'm just going to show you that the Canva tool is available. There's other free tools, and honestly, you can go right onto your favorite search engine and search for an online image resizing tool. And it will pull up several great options right away. Some of them will do them in batches if you're trying to adjust a lot of time. Um, and I know that we've talked about, JP, a tool that you really like that not only can help you resize them, but also can help you put everything in a modern file format for web. Isn't that right?
That's right. So I'll take over a little bit from here. The very important format that Rodney is referring to is WebP, and WebP has let me just jump here. WebP has been developed by Google specifically for mobile. And the idea is to reduce the file size of your images even more so that mobiles can load faster. And Rodney mentioned earlier, that's specifically when you're not on Wi-Fi, when you are traveling and you're somewhere and you're using 4G or 5G connection. So if you've never heard of WebP, which many people haven't, then it's a good idea that you read up a little bit about it, but don't get nervous. Now, I'm a Photoshop user. I cannot save in WebP in there. I still haven't been able to figure that out. But I think let's start at the first place is that Brizy and WordPress, most themes are fully compatible with WebP images. So if I have an image over here, I can use a WebP image. Now, I'm going to show you quickly my tool that I prefer, and I love Canva. I use it all the time. Like I said, I have Photoshop. You know, when you start playing with tools, you can never get enough of them. But I kind of go to this website nowadays, photop.com, and it is for free. So you can log in. You don't have to log in. You can just type it in there. And I'll open my Explorer here, and I'll show you that I have this image of this gentleman over here, and it's in JPEG. Currently, it's at 900 pixels wide, and it's actually pretty decent. If I hover over it, it's 110 kilobyte. That's really nothing. But what happens, I'll just drag it and I'll drop it. That's done very quickly, upload it to the internet. The first thing, like Rodney was showing, let's go and crop this. And I like the shortcut like C, I think gives me a crop. And then I can choose my aspect ratios up here. 1-to-1 is perfect. Let me see if I just move it. There we go. And I'll say yes. And now I have my nice square. And from here, and you don't, this is what I always tell people, ignore everything else. Don't get caught up in all the things that are going on here. Just focus on the nice stuff. You go to File and you go to Export As, and here you have all the popular formats, and I'm going to choose WebP. This is the one we want to work with, and I highly recommend this is the direction you go. We'll talk about, if you already have a website, what are your options later. So I'll select WebP, and you can see it brings up, my gentlemen. And this is very difficult to read, but here at the bottom, going from 110 kilobytes, it is going to go down to 40 kilobytes. That's huge saving. Some people are saying, well, that's small, but for me, that is huge. But I want to point out one thing that is very important. I think many people think this is something they shouldn't do, and that is the quality setting over here. Most people want to go for 100% quality, and really, your eye just cannot see it. If I move this bar up to 100, it actually goes up to 383 kilobytes. That's more than the JPEG. And why I say that, and that brings me to something I wanted to say earlier, there are many tools online for converting JPEGs and PNGs directly into WebP. You have to be very careful, because what it's going to do in most cases is give you 100% quality, and you may just end up with a bigger image. So if you end up with a bigger image and you don't have any additional tools, then stick with the PNG, stick with the JPEG. You always want to go for the smaller file size. But trust me, at 900 pixels, 50% reduction, this thing is not going to make a difference. I'll give it a new name. Let's call it Spaceship Demo. And I'll save it, and it goes straight into my folder. And now when I go over to Brizy, I'll select this, I'll remove this image, and then I'll upload one, or I'll bring it into my library. Let me just go to my downloads, and I'll drag him in. And that's how quickly things go. Look at that, 39 kilobytes, nothing. Perfect, at 50% quality. And this to me is, I know it's a longer process, you have to go through it, but what Rodney just showed you, I can promise you, this is where you get to that point. Once you have burnt your fingers by just uploading images and hoping WordPress can do a good job for you, you'll spend more time on first resizing your images to the right aspect ratio, which you ever prefer, especially for hero backgrounds, like Rodney said, 1920 by 1080, your HD format, and then look at squares and look at your other aspect ratios like 4:3. Find a tool that works for you. I love Photopea. I also love my Photoshop. And like I said, I have a number of others that can also do this. So I think, Rodney, while I'm here, I also want to quickly talk about another way to optimize your website, and that is especially also for mobile. And I just want to show you, we were talking about mobile. This is also going to look perfect. Everything is chopped, said this guy. So let me go to desktop, and I quickly want to talk here about when you bring in a video to your website, which is very standard nowadays. And I'll bring in a column because a whole video all over this is going to be too wide. So I have a video here. It's a video element, and we have a standard link there that loads it from YouTube. But just for your interest, you can bring in from Vimeo URL as well as custom. So if you have your own where you put all your videos, you can bring in those custom MP4 formats. The problem is those speeds that Rodney had showed you earlier with the Google Sitekit is that these are external requests. And what happens every time you have an external request, it takes a split second extra. And that kind of adds on to that average loading speed eventually. It is good practice not to actually put YouTube link directly like this if you want to address those issues. And we've also built that within the builder. And again, you're going to find that even in Gutenberg, the WordPress editor, you're going to find it in most other page builders out there. But yet we tend to often just want to drop the link in there. Hey, it looks good, it's great. But take that extra step, help yourself with this, and let's look at what I'm talking about. So what I'm going to do, instead of just leaving it like this, I'll click on the element, and I'll go to my settings, and I'll go to player. Now you can see I have here the option for a cover image. What this is going to allow me to do is to bring in my own thumbnail for this video, and then once this page loads, it will bring in the image. So now we go back to image optimization and the base format for an image. And this year we are looking at an image, Rodney would say half a page is 1,200 pixels, no wider than that. You can even go a little bit smaller. And you bring in the cover image. And what will happen is this image will load. And once somebody click on it, then the video external link will be sent out. So it doesn't get into that initial process of the speed. I'll click here on cover image, open my media library. Let me quickly go here. And I've created this here for my agency, my image. And you can see this image is 900 by 506 pixels. It's in WebP. It's 22 kilobytes. I love these numbers because a few years ago that was impossible. So I'll select it and boom, it drops it in there. And you can design this, of course. You can put some wording on there if that is what you're trying to achieve. You can change and play around with this play button. But I'm going to leave it like that, and then we'll just update it. And I'll go to the preview. And while it is updating, I quickly also want to mention one of the great features we have in Brizy Builder is something we're very proud of, and it's called Compiler. And that means when I share this URL of my site with you, on your site, it's going to load like this. And we're not bragging here. We're just stating facts. It's the truth. This is something that we implemented last year, and it works immediately. So it's really something that speeds up your loading page. So I'm going to go to preview, and then I'll go to the bottom. And of course, we actually want to view this in mobile, but I'm just going to click on this, and you can see at that stage, it loads the video only. So this is two things I would highly recommend, whether you are using Canva, whether you are using Photopea or your favorite tool. I do agree with Rodney. I'm also a Windows user, something I wish Microsoft would have given us these tools, especially they are so focused on many other tools that they are bringing. And it would be great to also see this in the future right within the desktop. Apple has some great tools that you can use, but try to bring in WebP. And that brings me to that last point. If you already have websites with many, many images, and you don't want to go through each of them and convert them into WebP, if it works, don't mess with a good thing. But if you really want to do it, you can look for conversion plugins out there. But just be aware of that caveat I mentioned, is that often a PNG directly to WebP will not give you a smaller file. And I've seen this for many of these conversion plugins that people are often shocked that they say, hey, the file is actually bigger at the end. You're going to get 95% good hit rate, but at some point you're going to get a few images that comes out bigger. So what I recommend you do, get the plugin, run the plugin, and then do comparisons. And those images that came out a little bit bigger, you go and manually adjust them. That would be an easier way to still save some time and not to create too much work for you. And all of this will just make your website load so much quicker on mobile.
Yes, that's great, and I really love that's something that without Breezy can be very, very difficult to achieve, is that lazy load of the video. Really keep having that thumbnail that loads and keeps that page load speed quick. I've worked with other websites that are not built on Breezy that's tricky to achieve and requires an additional plugin to install, and sometimes development depending on it. So I know we're running out of time, and we've still got to get to our Q&A. I know it's gone by so fast, and we still have to get to our prizes. But there's
and
one.
I have like list of things to talk about, but I realize we're not going to get to that.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, I see. There's several bullet points that I had, but there is one thing that I really, really do feel like we must hit in a call like this, in a webinar like this, which is to talk about how important it is to test and preview your website. And JP has shown us several times in Breezy how to go back and forth between the desktop and the mobile or the narrower view. But for those of us that aren't using that tool right now on a particular website, I did want to show you how to do that in a couple of other ways. One way is in the native editor. This is just a default editor. This is a sample page that comes with the 2025 theme. And I just wanted to pull that up here. But as you're editing in that builder, right here at the top, you have similar options to what you have in Breezy. It's not as visual as what you can get in Breezy, but it's comparable. But just you can click the same little desktop here, and you can toggle over to the tablet or the mobile and look at it in those different widths of screens. And I can't say enough, I can't reiterate enough that if mobile is important to you, do this every single time. Not only when you build a new page or build a new blog post, but when you revise something, when you change an image, if you change a headline. Sometimes headline text can format differently. Just 3 words versus 6 words can look very, very different on an old version of a page versus a new. So I would just really encourage you to, as you're editing, uh, check these out each and every time, whether that's in Breezy or in the native editor. And then one last thing before we really move on to the Q&A and our prizes. This is mobileviewer.io, and this is a free online tool that lets you test how your website looks on some different types of popular phones. And I've already put our little test site in the URL field there. And I'm trying to see, can you see it? Let me see here. Well, this is the live another live webinar moment, but for some
Mhm.
reason the preview isn't coming over. But check this out on your own. Put your website in here, click Get Mobile Version, and you'll see a pop-up that gives you that narrow preview, that's kind of skinny screen preview of your website. It's just another way to go through, double check every single thing of how it functions, look at it on different types of devices. Um, and then, the kind of the last little bullet point to hit here is also trying a couple different kinds of browsers. People use Safari browser, Firefox, Chrome, Edge. There's lots of browsers. Gone are the days when everybody used Chrome. So it's really important to kind of look at the experience in those widescreen and skinny screen versions and multiple different types of browsers. So that experience that users are having when they really come to your website. I think that's all that I've got time to go over, JP, as far as on the presentation. We've hit our
We're way
hour
over our
already.
time. Yeah,
Yeah.
when it comes to this, I talked at the beginning about animation. I'll throw in one more minute. But one of the things I often see also with customers requesting things like scroll effects, hover effects, and all kinds of animation. And I have to remind people, those are useless on a mobile device. They may be great on desktop, but as long as we don't have interactive touch, which is something that will come in the future, I'm pretty sure in the future I'll be able to just point at a screen and things will move. We're there already, but it's not yet at consumer level. But at this moment, having all these weird effects for a button to grow and skew and do all of that doesn't have an impact on mobile device. So when you are designing, constantly think of that and think of whether your audience is most likely to access your website on a mobile device or on a desktop. If it's something very technical and academic, people most likely will come sit in front of a PC and look at it. But if, like e-commerce, I still struggle to buy on my phone, but my wife is, okay, bought it. I'm like, okay, you're done, right? And e-commerce is 60% on mobile nowadays. So I would say, when you were looking at the themes at the beginning, I constantly have to tell people, don't try to invent the wheel again. We know nowadays how e-commerce websites look. Don't try and make a new e-commerce layout. People are familiar with, this is where the cart is, this is where this is. And people like familiar. From a designer's point of view, we always want to do something unique. And that may actually make the user feel strange when they come to your website. So I'll stop them. It's more than my 1 minute. So let's do Q&As.
Okay.
Rodney, you want to say something before the QA, or we jump into Q&A?
Let's just jump right in.
Okay, so this one is from me, and most of these questions have been answered already. Thank you to the support team in the background, Dimitro, very great, and Kate and Nika is also there. They've been helping you guys with the questions, but for those of you who couldn't watch to this point, you probably don't see the conversation. We're going to go through a few questions. Interesting is that Page Builder Free, Brandon, we have 2 versions. You can get it right from out the WordPress repository. In fact, the email that will go out after this webinar, there will be a how-to video where we show you how to install it, and you can also check out the Pro version as well. Let's see. I think this one over to you, Rodney. Augustine says, is there an integrate CDN in the EasyWP hosting?
Absolutely. We've got a CDN that we've built. It's super fast, super reliable. You can choose to add it as you are setting up your hosting plan once it's been purchased. You just part of that setup wizard. You can click apply and add on the CDN, or you can add it at any time in the future if you decide that you want to speed up your pages further with a content delivery network and you've opted out initially. You can go to that management screen that I showed you and add it there.
Okay, please, where can I get a price list of the website builder subscription? That's over to me, Brizzy. There's a link that was shared, brizzy.io, and you can see how it's spelled there, B-R-I-Z-Y, B-R-I-Z-Y.io. And that link will also be in the email that we will send out after this. Interesting one from Paul. What video encoding do you recommend for media posted to a mobile site for optimal bandwidth and storage efficiency?
Well, I'll just say what I use, and there may be deeper answers to this, and JP, you may have one too. But I really like MP4 because I really like the file size that it comes out with. I'm able to get a good balance of quality. But the reason that I really like it as an SEO guy and just a website guy, it's universally compatible with web browsers, and so where there are maybe some formats that maybe older browsers or certain types of browsers don't support, MP4 is very well supported. That's what I think. What do you think?
Same thing, and that's a decision we made at Brizzy. So you can bring in your custom your custom URLs for wherever you host it on which platform, but it's going to be MP4 format. And Rodney mentioned when you're done, you have to go check this out at the bottom of. I've got all the different browsers here at the bottom because I do that all the time. I'm frantic about it. Edge, for example, runs on Chrome. But I found the other day I uploaded actually in Gutenberg and a plugin. I uploaded a SVG icon and it didn't display on Edge, but it displayed on Chrome. And that is the problem with many of the other encoded. Some of them just don't want to support it. They feel it slows it down. AVI still is okay, but many don't really run that well. So your best bet is MP4. And I think based on streaming, sorry, I'm struggling here with this one who wants to get on the keyboard and make a legacy. When it comes to MP4, I think it depends on where you are hosting it. You have to look at those speeds and where it is requested from if you have one. If you're doing it directly up to WordPress, you also have to consider for mobile, you don't need mega big resolution, but some people will view it on a desktop and then you better have something good. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm glad we agree.
Right. So let's see did we do this entering? So we should build almost as for climate, simple and easy without so much irrelevant things. It's my opinion. I'm a minimalist. I used to be a full spectacular, bling it all and make it shine. And I did that. It's like when I was in photography, there was a time in photography we did HDR photography and it was the whole thing. Everything looked so very vivid. And then we stepped back and we said, okay, it was a nice phase. Let's take a step back and make it simple again. But I do see there is a trend nowadays again to try very weird things on desktop. So, but my opinion is I would say cut, keep the necessary. People love images, people love videos, but when it comes to text, people don't read. But I always say people don't read, but when they read very well. Yeah. Rodney, what's your point here?
Yeah, I agree with you. And the one thing that I would just add on it, and this is really something that a site owner or a business owner really has to evaluate for themselves is what's the need of the site? What's the need of the company? And I'll use ourselves as an example, spaceship.com. We have so many services. We have so many places that people need to go to. We have so many things that people really do need access to. So we're constantly having conversations about what goes in this menu. What is this page layout going to look like? What buttons are we going to serve? And we absolutely have the philosophy to keep it as simple as we possibly can. But then ultimately we have to really think about what do people also, what are each use case scenario that our users will have. And so one thing that is really important to think about is having, or to consider, is to have a slightly different menu available on a mobile device versus on the desktop experience. So if your website host the browser realizes that this is a desktop experience, it will pull a more exhaustive navigation, top navigation or side navigation for your site. Or if it realizes it's on a mobile device or a narrower device, pull something a little bit simpler. And so that's something that you can think about. And the tools that we've already talked about here give you those options, are really built in. And if you have a really complicated situation, that WP Touch plugin that we talked about, that may be something to consider as well.
Let's go for 2 more questions and then we can get to our giveaway. Do we need to have any speed optimization plugin for Builder? I think the question is rather for your site, not just for the Builder. It comes down to, because Rodney mentioned at the beginning, plugins, and often when it comes to speed, the first advice people will give you is, how many plugins do you have in your bag? So from the Builder perspective, every builder on this market is in competition with everyone else on making sure they are optimized, because this is the #1 challenge at this moment, is how to make websites faster. Okay, and then we have AI. That's a different story. But everything in the Builder is done to try and make it as fast as possible. And that's what I mentioned also earlier with the compiler. But, Rodney, you definitely have more insight as to when it comes to speed optimization for your entire site.
No, I agree with what you said. I think the thing to think about is setting yourself up with your website, setting yourself up for success, having, really good high quality hosting. And, with EasyWP, we're optimized for WordPress. If you're running the WordPress optimized system on EasyWP, some of that speed optimization is already taken care of for you. If you're using a great theme, if you're following some of these practices that we talked about here, your speed is inherently optimized by following all these practices. So I would say, for the most part, and for most people, you don't need an extra speed optimization plugin. Now, that being said, once you've got your website live and you're looking at the data that comes from some of these testing sites, like the Core Web Vitals test, or right there in the Google plugin right on your WordPress dashboard, and you see over time what those metrics come in and what they say, that would be the time to look and say, okay, what's causing the slowdown? Is it because I uploaded a 1 terabyte video to a page on my website and that's slowing it down? Or is this caused by something else? I would say more often than not, the plugin, an extra plugin, is not going to be what you need. It's going to be making sure that you've got those resources optimized before you put them live. That's what I think.
That's a webinar by itself.
Yeah, for sure.
Various opinions as well. And I think to wrap it off, Ray asked, can you come up with another webinar?
We can. People should tell us, like, as we're wrapping things up, put in the comments what you want to see in another webinar. We love doing these. There's millions of questions that we could answer in these webinars, but what is it that you need to know? We'd love to answer that next time.
Yeah. And one thing that's also very useful is when people give us their suggestions, is let us know what you are building. And are you a one-person enterprise, just one-off website? Are you making websites, as a hobby? There are people who do that. Do you build for business? Do you make bigger websites, or are you an agency? This also helps because the advice for all of these different groups vary. So it's also great to know what you guys are doing. Are you just making your own cooking recipe website, or do you have an extended business that you have many franchises and that you are setting up different sites for each of them with the global head site to combine them all? Great. So I think, Rodney, you are going to do us the favors. Let's just have a quick look again at the prizes that we said we were going to give away. We're going to give away a $100 gift card, and depending on where you are, it will depend on what gift card it is. So we're not sending you a US gift card. If you're over in Japan, we're going to make sure it's something that you can use in your country. That is for one random winner, and Rodney is ready with that. Then we're going to give $50 to a Spaceship account. You can go and try everything that we showed you. And then there's secret surprises to be revealed, 5 random winners. So, Rodney, let's see.
Yes. So we will tell you the winners now, and then we'll also contact you about how to claim your prize and get you connected with that after the webinar is complete. But the winner of the $100 gift card is Madeline Allison. Congratulations. The winner of the $50 to your Spaceship account is Future Abigail. That's going to go a long way. Our prices at Spaceship are so great that like you're going to be able to get so many things for your $50. Now here's our secret surprise. So the secret surprise, we're giving away free 5 yearly EasyWP Turbo subscriptions. So that's EasyWP Turbo level hosting, free for a year for these 5 people: Mads Ablegard, Antrania Stone, Brandon Pina, Lubika Hapfield, and Shahrazar Nazim Rafat are all winners of the EasyWP Turbo subscription for a year.
And that is the benefit of joining a webinar with a small group, is that your chances of actually winning just went up by 80%.
And then we also just want to remind everybody has access to our special discount offer using the promo code easy. I'm waiting for it to come back on the screen again. So you can get EasyWP for as low as 77 cents a month with Easy25 coupon code. If you buy be sure to sign up for an annual plan and also enter that code at checkout. And that offer is only going to last until March 13th of this year. So make sure, if you're ready to get started, if you've been thinking about starting another website, if you're ready to go, take the skills and the knowledge that you learned about here today, sign up for that new website, and get started.
Right. And just to round it off again, we will send out an email after this webinar with a link for this video to rewatch. It will also be posted on the YouTube channel of Spaceship, and then you can have the captions there if you need to have it with captions enabled. And within that, you will also get all these goodies and the names of the winners there. So in case we had 2 people with the same name, just sit back and relax until you get the email to confirm that you are actually the winner. And then, we would love to hear from you. You can also reply to that and let the support team know what kind of topics you are interested in. Maybe today you saw something like, what is that? I think, for example, sorry, I can babble on, but Rodney showed the Google Site Kit. And 5 years ago, there wasn't such a thing. It was Google Analytics. It was a complicated process. If you just created a website one time, it's like a key. Where do I get this stuff? And you had to go and you have to create. You go into the console. Now with this Google site, it is just such a breeze and everything is there and it's done so easily. So maybe this was new to you and you're like, I want to know more about that. What do these analytics mean for me? Let us know. We would be very happy to come back and give you another one. And of course, thanks for that. Rodney, this was great.
Thanks, JP. It was good to see you.
Very much. So what are you going to do for the rest of the day?
Well, it's morning where I am. It's 11:18 a.m. Where I'm located. So I'm probably going to start thinking about lunch next.
Well, I'm going to go feed the male cat because he scratched my leg now for the last half an hour. And then I'll go and take care of the bruises after that. Yes. So thank you very much for joining, everyone. I hope you have a great day. For those of you who are going to bed, see you in the next day. And take care. Rodney, have a good one.
Bye. Thank you.